Um, Hello, everyone. I just want to acknowledge that this moment right now, where we're here in all of different spaces from all over the world, in the midst of many things that we are doing, we care about, we love, we hate, we are angry with, or we fight for, but we're here. We're taking an hour to share time and space together. And I acknowledge that. I also want to acknowledge that I'm here right now in my country and raised in the Philippines, and also my ancestors who were also one of the first founders of my hometown, Cadiz City, Negros Occidental. So I am Abner, and I have been working with ITAC for a couple of years now for this project and for other engagements. And I'm glad to see Eric again and Madeline and Pablo helping me here, and also familiar names, Miss Rosa and Raz, fellow Filipinos who are here. And for other fellow teaching artists, I'm glad that you're here. So I'm just like reading through some of your intros in the chat. This is a very diverse group, but I can sense that most of us here care about our world and of life. That's why we're here. So prior to moving forward, I just want to share a bit of format of how I'm gonna use my time with you tonight, or tonight because it's 9 p.m. here in this side of the world. Um, so I'm gonna do a bit of a sharing, a presentation about the Social Actions Community Leadership Arts Workshop. And then we're going to have time for an interaction a bit and for your questions. But every now and then, everyone is free to share their thoughts and questions on the chat box. After which, if we're lucky enough, then I want to share a bit of a eco-embodiment meditation practice that I use as the heart of this climate camp, which is called KA-MA-LAYA-AN. So yeah, first off, I want to invite us to just breathe in deeply, perhaps, and just acknowledge the air that's coming in right now in our bodies. And as we offer it back to the world, another one. And if you can, observe each other as they breathe as well. Hello. We are here on Zoom, but we are real bodies. Another deep inhale. And just like I want to invite you to rub your hands, and perhaps if you can feel that heat, place it on your heart center, and just a moment, close your eyes and be more intentional of why you're here. And if you can, tap into your higher frequency, which is love and compassion and care, and listening and generosity. All right. Thank you so much. So, for context, for a year now, I've been slowing down work because I lost someone very dear to me, my husband. But then I'm very willed to continue, and the ITAC has been a very supportive platform for me as well to fight for my advocacy, which is of climate justice. So even so, we know grief has many faces, and this is one of them, I think. And let me just share to you, which I'm like trying to look for now. Give me a second. Oh, 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 oh. Okay, got it. Oh, yeah. Let me be able to. All right. start my time. Here you go. So as I've said, the coverage of this presentation is within the scope of the Social Actions Community Leadership Arts Workshop. In fact, I was able to also share this during the Arts Education Forum and with the theme helping children navigate global challenges. So I'm, of course, as Gary has mentioned, I am of many hats and worlds, and but everything is interconnected in my life when it comes to care culture and global justice and ecological healing. Quite recently, I'm a proud martial artist too.
But environmental
I want us to listen to this first as base for today's presentation.
sustainability. This is a tough one. I think that as human beings, we are not unlike gerbils. We're kind of great at the fight or flight thing. We're great when we sense danger at jumping up, looking around and spotting it and reacting. We're good at it. It's what's kept us on this planet all these years. What we're terrible at, is dealing with slow burn issues. Issues that just get worse and worse and worse in the background, and which on a day-to-day basis we can kind of put in the back of our minds and not get too engaged with. We are very, very susceptible to what I would term slow burn issues. Now, I'm a child of the 60s. I was brought up with this mantra.
You're either part of the solution or you're going to be part of the problem. And I think SACLAW, which means include everyone, is an invitation for us to be part of the solution.
But environmental sustainability. This is a...
So yeah, just an overview. SACLAW is an arts for development program that cultivates self and collective leadership in grassroots communities through a network of artists, artivists, educators, cultural workers, and community leaders. I'll share more about that later. This was made possible, of course, with the support of ITAC for the past couple of years. So it looks something like this. You have an idea what happened for last year's ITAC.
To respond to climate emergency is to understand that we are part of nature. That ecology, or the story of our house, is also our story. And the question is, do we want to continue this story?
So the question is, do we want to continue this story? And most of us really don't know much or really have forgotten that when we think of ecological crisis, coming from the word eco, oikos, or home, and logi, logos, or story, there is a story to be told here. And that's where I think I come from. I approach arts education from a place of a storyteller. And I understand this by creating stories together with the young leaders from the Philippines. So for context, I've been also part of this fellowship from Georgetown University. I've been a previous ACC fellow, and that allowed me really to focus on regenerative practices and ecological arts practices. And I've been also one of the fellows for ITAC Climate Camp. Also for context, how I have arrived here is that for the past decades or more, I have been part of arts education programs at the Cultural Center of the Philippines and the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, or the Department of Education. So I have been training thousands of teachers or students from all over the Philippines for a special program for the arts, or K-12 arts and design track. I've actually, in fact, have written a book for Department of Education for the arts and design track for the teaching guide of our teachers from all over the Philippines. I've also been, that led me to my participation or invitation and encounters with arts therapy projects, and which really allowed me to witness, the my experiences with the survivors and calamities. So because of these experiences from for instance, Typhoon Haiyan, survivors of Typhoon Haiyan, the strongest typhoon ever recorded in history. Look at that school. It's literally gone. How do you approach arts education with that? Or, children here who are orphans already from a landslide, or flash flood, or from the teachers having to leave their beautiful land because of the war, these Muslim mothers and teachers. So I have been dealing and have encountered so many people for the past 2 decades, I suppose, working as an arts educator. And it makes one really reflect what else to do. And also I have met like indigenous folks, have shared stories to them, or even those who are in the prison. So this is where I'm coming from. I come from a place where I try to understand what is the problem. So, but the pandemic was the game changer to me. I was in the US, hopefully to study for 6 months or a year, but then pandemic happened, and doors were shut down. And how do you observe the movement of the world and where it's going when everybody also stops? But this sort of like shutting of the big doors allowed me to also see wider doors, which would be the earth, the world, or nature, and that nature in myself. Interestingly, when I was in US during the pandemic, I also have seen how the Black Lives Matter movement have progressed, but also I juxtaposed it to the pictures in my country during that time, which would be jeepney drivers asking for money on the roads. It's like same hands, but different use, different courage, perhaps different circumstances. So clearly, for me, that was like, okay, the global injustice is happening. So many global gaps are happening, not only within my country, but globally. So through the years, I've been mapping in my mind a map of our global challenges. And this can be overwhelming as a trigger warning. So I'm not going to stay long here in this next slide, but just to give you a picture, perhaps, of some of our concerns. Of course, the war and conflict, human rights abuses, trauma abuse, abuse of power, social, political, and economic crisis, job security, food security, climate crisis, biodiversity crisis. And everything there connects: food security, job security, and mental health, even, um, and cultural crisis. So many things. This is for another talk. So let me read to you what I shared during that forum. Climate crisis is a crisis of leadership. Local, give me a second, I can't. It's been a while since I did Zoom, to be honest. So, okay. Local and global issues are all interconnected. The overlapping problems we are facing at present, and of which the younger generation will have to navigate sooner than expected, whether from mental and physical health concerns, war and conflict, social, economic, or ecological crisis, are all rooted from the abuses of power and from the cycle and our culture of leadership, both self and collective, or the lack thereof. No one is spared from these layered problems, although the powerful and the privileged will have better ways to respond than those who have been robbed by their basic rights. So let's do the math. So I just want to acknowledge that for a second, and really looking at climate crisis as a crisis of social injustice, therefore a crisis of leadership, but also is really a crisis of imagination, because it is up to our leaders, but also it is up to us collectively to imagine a better future for our world and for each other. So that is the heart as well of SACLAW, Social Actions Community Leadership Arts Workshop, where we provide a space for young leaders to imagine that future, to imagine that world. And that is what we do as arts educators. So some of the invitations would be, how do we decolonize? How do we reimagine our teaching guides? How do you imagine our pedagogies, our strategies for teaching? How do we break away from the four walls of our classrooms, for instance? How do we heal together? How do we reimagine this world? Everything is interconnected, and that is also the core of the collective that I lead, which is Black Canvas. And yes, I told you it is a collective that is focused on care culture, global justice, and ecological healing. And we really hope to empower women's, queers, and all marginalized communities here in the country. So we have done several projects before, safe spaces or fundraising for our peer elders, or an electoral campaign of activism during the election, or children's binal, fronting indigenous culture and care. So, but now we are focusing on SACLAW. So just a bit of background, Philippines is very vulnerable to climate crisis. I think what I want to highlight here is also the irony of this, because we only contribute about 0.4% to the emission, but then the global north is responsible for 92%, but we are at the top. If I'm not mistaken, in Asia, it's really very vulnerable to the perils of climate crisis. Already, we have experienced that. I have been there less than a month or just weeks after Typhoon Haiyan happened in Tacloban. I don't know if you've heard, and you must, I suppose, search about it. It's terrible. And in a time of that war, it feels like war. It feels like, no loss can applies, actually. Like it's a question of survival. But I think, taking a step back, what else can we do? And definitely leadership played a major role during that time. This is where I was born. What you're looking at is the sea and the land of my hometown. It's so beautiful that I invite you to be there. I invite you to come to the Philippines. Philippines is such a very beautiful country. We all have beautiful countries, in fact. But I care for my land. I care for my sea. I care for my people. I care for my history, but also for the future of the people I love. And this is also another heart of why I do SACLAW. So that is Cadiz City. Cadiz City is the gateway and premier center of agro-fishery resources in Negros Island. Obviously, we're at a coastal area. Perhaps in just a couple of or few more decades, we are going to confront ecological concerns within our coast. Already, we have experienced this during the Typhoon Haiyan. About 5,000 houses of and the livelihood of our fisher folks and farmers were affected. So what to deal with this, or how to deal with this? So the problem really is obvious. And I thought just a fraction of the solution is to bridge the gap of climate education and community engagement. Why did I say that? When I think when you ask an average, like a student here or a teacher here, perhaps just couple of years back, when you start talking about climate crisis or like saving the earth, the concept is like, of course, you have to like reduce your use of plastic and this and that, but the bigger conversations doesn't reach at the micro level, and I find that very problematic. Bridging that consciousness is very problematic to me, and even decentering also funding for climate action is also very problematic to me, because these are the people who get so affected, and yet the government, the country always bank on our resilience, as people. So we have to, I think, reimagine how do we go about this when when our concept of leadership is in crisis, and the way for me to approach this is to create a community of artists and artivists and educators and leaders who are open and willing and who cares enough for reimagining a kind of self and collective leadership. and really shaping it with the community. It's one thing to be an artist, it's another thing to be a teaching artist, but also it's I think it's another invitation to to teach art and also learn within your communities. And I still learn, I still continue to learn. I may have the skills, I may have the tools, but the daily problems, I don't usually encounter them, right? We all have different uh, um, problems that we tackle when it comes to climate crisis. So this work is also very intersectional and intergenerational and interdisciplinary in its approach. So our dream is to include all networks of marginalized communities and empower young leaders from different sectors, such as the fisher folks, farmers, women, children, queers, PWD, to address the social and climate justice. I think the frame of this SACLAW is that I wanted to be tailored fit to any community who needs it. And I think what's more important for me is to create a space to name it somehow and to give inspiration to other communities and groups or networks that this is possible, that this can be possible. Um, so there are initial focus, which is the environmental protection, climate crisis mitigation, and adaptation. I'm just gonna go through some of the slides here. Um, the network was we included, of course, the collective, Black Canvas Collective, but also the Visayas, the youth leaders from Visayas, um, and also our local government unit. And we also connected to the government units such as the Environmental Natural Resources or the Disaster Risk Reduction Management Services Department, and even included the participation of our local artists for visual arts and for music. So this is one of our meetings. Oh, I'm just gonna send this link to you, but because we may not have much time. So the focus of the first iteration of SACLAW was attitude and actions. In fact, for the first 2 years, and the basic frame of SACLAW would be this. It is usually designed for a 3-day camp, but I imagine it could be longer if we have more resources and more people as well. So we start with kaalaman, knowledge or the mind, kakayahan, the strengths or the heart, and comunidad, community, or the hands or and the feet. But this also translates to, say, leveling our understanding of the facts, the infos, lectures from our speakers from Disaster Management Services Department or from Environmental Natural Resources or from our previous mentors as well from Black Canvas, who also tackle climate justice from a cultural and anthropological perspective. So kakayahan, for instance, translates to creative mentorship. This is the part where the teachers interact with the students either one by one or as a group and really understand how they want to weave in their art practice into the topic, the climate concern that matters to them. And the collective action is the part where we have a jam on top of the mountain, for instance, sharing the work with the community. So if you watch the video, you can see all of this there. There were these skills and competencies as well that I have wanted to tap into, which would be climate awareness and education, creative expression for climate action, tools for community leadership, skills for community engagement, ability for networking, collaboration for climate action, and change of attitude towards intersectional lens, nurturing heart for planet and life systems. So this is like how it looks like from paper, but I assume that because we were doing this for the grant as well, but I assume that all artists, educators, managers have their own strategies to go about this. So do what works for you. Just to give you a picture of the effect of this. So this slide is a mix of the past, the first and second iteration of SACLAW. So for instance, when we look at growth in knowledge and curiosity of city and country, when we ask the students before they attended SACLAW and after, so the before is the blue one, or I don't know the exact color, but the after is the green one. You can see a spike in their responses, of course, but nothing beats the stories from them. Nothing beats their shares and their testimonials, of course. But just to share to you a picture of the effect of SACLAW to them, understanding the role of arts in communities, not motivation for creative community actions. We see a very high spike there. Contributing to climate action as an artist leader. So it's a very significant increase after experiencing SACLAW. Desiring collaborating with local efforts for climate action, which is important because when we leave, there has to be some fuel for them, or they should be able to like sustain themselves to for that inspiration, for them to be propelled enough to work with their local leaders or their peers. Taking action towards a climate responsive community. All right. So this one is a lot as well. Just want to go through. I have, I think, 5 more minutes, something like that. But first is the intersectional frame. It's intersectional in a way that we are dealing with a global issue from a global lens, but also the action is local, and the language is local. We are also dealing with the intersectionality of many disciplines, such as arts and leadership, community development, and so on. There is a macro network, ITAC, for instance, but like, who would have thought that ITAC is the one supporting a community, in Cadiz City, Negros Occidental, and some other leaders, So I think that's very pretty interesting to me, and I hope that more of these relationships can happen. We also try to apply the whole systems design thinking, which really focuses on social, cultural, economic, and ecological dimensions, and that definitely have also embodied diversity, equity, and inclusivity, and really made sure that this is a creative, safe space for everyone. So safeguarding policies were there, waivers, and eco actions during the camp. It's also very intersectoral in nature, because we work with different LGUs, local government units, and groups. And it's also interdisciplinary because we created a space for different art forms. Basically, it's multi-arts, but also it's like skills and capacity building meets artist retreat, meets community gathering, and collective climate action. So it is approached in an almost very eco-spiritual frame, something that can be very transformative for the young fellow. And in fact, some of their responses are of such. Recognizing the power of art. After the camp, I realized how art can help me change the perspective of an individual. It made me realize how my form of art can create change. Or the program has made me realize how great and lucky I am to be free. The power of nature is limitless. Some said, SACLAW camp helped me realize the importance of connecting myself to nature. And a renewed sense of artistic purpose and advocacy. I look forward to take action and share to the Cadisnons, the people of Cadiz, to become more helpful and responsive in climate responses, or playing a role in climate action. As an arts leader, I should be the voice and should take my part in promoting activities that will advocate the need to support and protect the environment. But there's one here that I like to share, passing it to my students. Most of them as well are young folks that are expected teachers. Okay, here. There's an interesting story here. After this KA-MA-LAYA-AN eco-embodiment, which lasted for about 2-3 hours on top of the mountain, that really allowed them to reconnect with nature and themselves, and their high beings. I just heard it from someone at the back, and she wrote this too, in the survey. It is the first time I want to live for a lifetime. because I felt like I belong, and it gave me such a strong connection to something that confronts me when no one would or could. It empowered me and strengthened my mind that when you use your talent and potential for a better purpose and clear vision, it will create a success together with nature and makes a community that is collectively marching towards a brighter future. But it's all words here. But when I first heard it, she was at my back, and and she just said, "Ah, parang ngayon ko lang naranasan na, ngayon ko lang masasabing gusto ko mabuhay." She was probably like 14, 15, and I felt that was really, really powerful, because just to hear that from a teenager, and we all know how the problems of the world, the global challenges, is already such a threat to everybody's mental health. And just to hear that is very, very empowering. So yeah, there are many more, of course, which I can share, but a lot of them really shared. They were very generous to share their wonderful realizations, reflections for SACLAW. As a steward of God's creation, I am motivated to continue what SACLAW aims to heal our Mother Earth. So we also did for this year, here are some of the voices. I will use this knowledge in educating my community about the climate crisis, or I will share my knowledge with the young ones, and not just for personal. All SACLAW activities help me a lot, not just for personal growth, but also in leadership and environmental consciousness. So I find this very very powerful. So I was supposed to like share this video, which but yeah, I don't know, Gary, do I still have like 2 minutes?
I think it might be better. I think it might be best
We'll
to
just share,
put a
no?
link in the
Yeah,
chat.
we'll
Yeah.
just share the link on the chat. Anyway, basically, that's where I want to stop for SACLAW, because I want to open the floor for your questions and ruminations or reflections as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abner. If anyone has any questions, we're just going to take a couple of minutes because Abner's going to take us through a meditation, which we're excited about. But a few questions coming in. Is that Kieran? Go ahead, either unmute or write in the chat.
Hi, I was just giving an applause for that. Thank you very much. It was really interesting.
Oh, thank you.
Maybe something will occur to me later, but yeah, I'm happy to do a meditation now.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. And if you'd like, of course, you are free to connect with Black Canvas. So you can follow Black Canvas on Facebook as well, or you can send me a message through my email. And actually, I am gonna copy and paste some of the links that you maybe of use to you. For everyone. So here.
Eric.
Black Canvas. What does Black Canvas mean? So it started about 13 years ago, and as a sort of like a production company, but it evolved into a collaboration space, but also evolved into a collective space, and it keeps on evolving to something. So the idea is like, how do you bring back the colors in a world that's getting darker? So really understanding, that's a basic philosophy of Black Canvas. How do you see the colors? How do you bring back the colors? Is it do you scratch it? Do you put colors in it? Do you do critique or collaboration or community engagement? So that's why it doesn't really take up like a specific shape of anything. It is a space. And we partner with institutions here as well. I have just directed the Children's Biennale with the Cultural Center of the Philippines called Balangao, which is rainbow in Filipino, 2 years ago, I suppose. And some of them were part of that. Some of them who joined us. I'm sorry, I'm just like my mind is skipping. Okay, Raz and Miss Rosa actually were also, I think, part of our previous projects before.
Anna has a question in the chat, and Eric has a
Oh,
question
this is nice.
as well. So Anna says, how do you manage the balance of depth and integrity of area without overwhelming our young people?
Yeah, I want to ask, what do you mean by integrity of area? You mean like,
not diluting it, just because they're younger, diluting it. So looking at the depth of knowledge and the integrity of, as you showed on that infographic, the complexities that interconnect when looking at climate justice, climate, environmentability, sustainability, what does action look like, and all the interconnectedness when working with primary or secondary. We specialize in working with 0 to 25-year-olds. How do you, there's lots of different ways. I was just interested in how you manage that balance of having integrity and depth to the issues that we're looking at, rather than skating the surface, but to the point where we're not giving our young people the baton that it's all there, that it's all in their hands. And that, because I have seen projects that either don't go very deeply into things, or the ownership of the problems being, that kind of the story of the polar bear. We all know the story of the polar bear, where the young people, are scared at night because the world is dying.
I understand.
Yeah.
I can feel your concern, Anna. Yeah, definitely. I feel that the intentionality comes first, which is that already with the people that I work with, we create a safe and a care-based approach to our practice and our pedagogies. The one that you saw is something that I don't show necessarily. It's a very vulnerable share. That's why I also didn't want to linger much to that. But with the youth fellows, I feel that because we have very limited time, I feel that it's important to understand that SACLAW is not, in fact, a discussion of the many issues of climate. It is first an embodied experience. So there is the immersive experience to this. We bring them to the sea and to the mountains, to the land, and we create space for them. And as I've said, like the first day there were these discussions, but there are only like prompts. We only invited one from the environmental natural resources, and usually they start off with all their best practices of the city. This is where it becomes interesting, because when they start off with this storytelling of like, this is what we do in our city, suddenly you will be surprised that these young fellows already, either activists of themselves, would question our local leaders, but you just threw this blah blah blah. So we are very careful about that, with our provocations. In fact, we don't operate that way. I don't operate that way. I create from a place of abundance, understanding that all its solutions are here, and that what we can deal with is what we are confronted, of course, at present, with our frequency. I don't know if you know, like Leo Tolstoy's 3 questions. I use this story every time I am dealing with survivors of calamities, because it's pretty much that. It can feel like, oh my gosh, where are we going? Is this purpose here? That is exactly why I feel that dealing with climate justice for any artist, any activist, leader, teacher who's dealing with the global challenges must first understand that all of these frequencies that we feel happen in the body. And it's important for us to be able to regulate ourselves and co-regulate together collectively. I think this is the strength of the pedagogy of SACLAW, which really means include everyone. So there's a lot of circles here. There's a lot of movement, but then it only, a springboard to their own practice. So even the visual art starts to like, well, move and then starts to think of his or her or their craft in a different way. Yeah, what else? Yeah, there's the strength of the immersive practice, the collective practice, the embodied practice, and almost very little to us as you notice, there's a decentering from the mind. That's why we start off with like the information, because the idea is to decenter everything. And that's how I understand embodied leadership and regenerative leadership. It's really allowing more space for the collective, that you are just part of a whole and that we are part of the whole. And if we can imagine that ecology already in a circle like here, then we can be a little forgiving of each other and of ourselves, of what we can do, but also feel accountable of each other. So I think I'm just like reliving that very indigenous philosophy of working together in a circle. I hope I answer that, but like I want to connect to you more about that. That's a very interesting question. Okay.
I'm going to move us along, if that's okay, because we only have 10 minutes left and we want to just respect everyone's time and yours and also experience this amazing meditation. So I'm going to move us along to that, if that's okay with you.
Oh yeah, perfect. I'm gonna invite us at this point to just sit comfortably wherever we are and acknowledge, in fact, the space around us. What do you see? If you can describe it like in your mind, or if you can verbalize it, see like silently, or you're all muted anyway. But during this time, you're free to do anything. Okay, I mean, you're free to participate or not participate. You're free to be in a frame or to stand up or to move if ever you feel like it. I'm just gonna be here guiding you through this. I'm gonna try to sort of like share the essence of the work, which is the KA-MA-LAYA-AN. So KA-MA-LAYA-AN stands for Kapwa, which is a Filipino philosophy for interconnectedness, or the space between us. We share space, so for Kapwa, Kapuwang. And Ma is actually a Japanese for that space between the stairs. So it's also like a space to rest. So it focuses as well mama, mothering or nurturing. Kalayaan also means liberation and freedom, and kapangyarihan, power and magic. So again, for Kamalayaan, that's another session that I can share. But that's the concept of Kamalayaan. And Kamalayaan encourages us to tap into all of these four pillars. And hopefully in that journey, you'll be able to allow your body to lead you, not just your brain, but your body to lead you into the answers that perhaps is already there. So right now, I just want you to acknowledge your seat. If you can touch it, just the color, you'll just be there. Be so present. I want to be present. I am here. Yes, you are there on your computer, but I am here. I see my notebook. I see a glass of water here. I want to drink. And just before, and as you do that, just do a one breath for every object that you take notice of, perhaps. And yeah, even that light, anything. And if time to time you can actually like, the center from your computer, just like really, we're not here. If you can like actually like move a little out sometimes, or I don't know, just really pay attention to what's been there supporting you in your room, like that door, protecting you, or that window where the air passes through, and that couch or this chair that's supporting my weight right now. I want you to feel the floor, in fact, if you can, and this floor and how it supports us, and just the abundance of care that we already feel here. Just really tapping into that. And underneath this, your house, dig deeper, there is the soil, the earth. We all share that. And I invite you to close your eyes to do this and take deep breaths as you continue to just allow yourselves to be in this earth right now. And you may hear music or sound as I guide you through this KA-MA-LAYA-AN. As we enter the ka, I want you to do 3 deep breaths and just acknowledge the space. As your eyes are closed, just imagine that space again where you're at. Recall that distance from the door, from your wall, from that glass, from that book. Just acknowledge the distance that you have from all of these things around you. Some things that have defined you, some things that have supported you, have given you knowledge and wisdom and power and care. Continue breathing deeply and really acknowledging this air, how it passes through your body, and even this air, how it sustains you. Breathe out and really sharing that back to the earth. I want you to imagine your axis right now on earth, where you're at, where you're pinned at in this earth. Just feel this energy on top of your head and down on your feet. And just imagine how far we are from each other, and yet we belong in the same core of the earth, in this same earth. Now I imagine that there is this wide circle of light around me, and it slowly, slowly reduces its space, becomes smaller. This light becomes smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it only becomes a light above your head. There's this light above your head. Just that. And as you continue to breathe, it feels like you are connected to this light, and it throbs and it breathes with you. Your every breath gives life to this light above you. And this light slowly flows like water, touches your crown, goes from your head to your skull, slowly moving to your spine, really allowing this movement of light inside your body. And it moves and it dances, and it touches your limbs, touches your elbows, and when it does, your elbow plays with it, touches your fingers, and when it does, your fingers move and play with it, as if it is a long-lost childhood playmate, a friend. And the light splits into 2, 3, 4, just touches your joints and lightens up your body, your spine, your pelvic bones, your knees, your ankles, your feet are all well lit. You are now a constellation. I just want you to acknowledge this constellation of light that you are right now. And if you can, allow them to play with each other. Acknowledge the light, this little light from your fingers, for instance, how they touch each other. Allow your fingers to touch your knees if you can, slowly, gently, as if its life relies on you. how this light connects to each other. Allow your fingers to touch your elbows. I invite you to touch the corners of your legs, the corners of your body, and really understand that within you is already the ecology of light, the ecology of life. Slowly, I invite you to hold on to this light, to give you a moment to continue breathing, but also imagine as if you are being invited back to the womb or to a safe space that you feel is calling you. Imagine your body in a fetal position. You can actually at this point just do anything. It's really pleasurable to you. Just let go of everything. Nothing matters right now. It's just you in this time and moment. This is just your life. This is your life. Just really feeling this nurturing energy around you. The envelope of care. The embrace of love. Back to the womb. Back to the earth. And just in this moment, as we go from Ka to Ma to our Kalayaan, liberation and freedom, I want you to do little taps with your body. Do little taps with your body. And just feel that, and if you can feel the floor, just tap the floor too. Just feel that vibration. Feel this moment. I invite you to take notice of the spaces in your own body that wants a sense of freedom. Is it your hands? You want to shake it? Is it your elbows? Your head? Is it holding much? Just shake it or just move it. Don't attach yourself to one body part, just keep on moving. And as we move from Ka to Ma to Kalayaan, what frees you, what frees your body, what liberates your soul. Still, if you can, still with your eyes closed, just moving your feet and your hands on your chair or standing up. Just allowing all these energies that you need to liberate, but now this time feeling that this is the same frequency that you have, where you can tap into your inner power. I want you to touch your heart center and do little taps on your heart center. Moment, I want you to rub your hands together and feel that heat. As we slowly get back to our space, then place your hands on your heart center. And I invite you to Me. So everyone, thank you so much. I have stopped noticing the time. And I personally thank you for this time as well. And thank you for your time as well. It's it's a it's a little bit of the practice, but yeah, I hope to hear from you in the chat box. Um, Whatever, however you feel right now as you leave the space, and perhaps the information will come to you, right now or later or tomorrow. Whatever it is that you're called to do in your own space as a teacher, as an arts educator, as a community worker, as an energy worker, in whatever space you have. So be patient and be gentle with yourself and be kind to yourself and to each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Abner. Thanks, everybody.